A quorum is present. We ask our guests and visitors in the rear of the chamber and in the gallery to please stand for the prayer. We ask Assembly Member Gilmore to offer the day's prayer.
Thank you. Members, would you bow your head? Lord, you have given each one of us certain gifts and talents. At times, we may be drawn into areas that may look impressive and may feed our ego, but those areas may be outside what you have blessed us to do. Lord, help us to stay focused on what we're good at and to know our limitations so that we can bring glory and honor to you. Amen.
We ask our guests to continue to stand and join us in the flag salute. Please join Assemblymember Ruskin as he leads us in the pledge. Assemblymember Ruskin. You may be seated. Reading of the previous day's journal.
Assembly Chamber, Sacramento, Wednesday, August 17, 2010. Assembly matter 1:30 p.m. Honorable Fiona Moss, Speaker Pro Tem, Assembly Presiding Chief Clerk E. Dawson Wilson at the desk. Assistant Clerk Timothy Moore. Then reading. The roll was called. Adams, Amiano, Anderson, Arambi, LaBelle, Bill Berryhill, Tom Berryhill, Blakesley Block.
Ms. Saldana moves and Mr. Garrick seconds that the reading of the previous day's journal be dispensed with. Presentations of petitions, there are none. Introduction and reference of bills will be deferred. Reports of committees will be deemed read and amendments deemed adopted. Messages from the Governor, there are none. Messages from the Senate, there are none. Motions and resolutions. The absences for the day will be deemed read and printed in the journal. Ms. Saldana.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. At the request of the author, please send the following bill to the inactive file, file item 17, AB 2309 by Mr. Fletcher.
Without objection.
And at the request of the authors, I'm giving a one-day notice of intent to remove the following bills from the inactive file. File item A3, Senate Bill 192 by Negretti McLeod. File item A12, Senate Bill 691 by Mr. Yee. And file item A17, Senate Bill 87 from the Senate Budget Committee.
Clerk will note, one-day notice.
And also, at the request of the authors, I'm giving a one-day notice of intent to remove the following bill from inactive. File item A26, Senate Bill 1203 by Mr. DeSaulnier.
Clerk will note, one-day notice.
Mr. Hagman.
Mr. Hagman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We do a roll call vote on that last bill at A26, 1203. We're not waiving the time on it. Okay.
Members, for those members who are not down on the floor with their keys turned in, we're going to be starting business on the daily file in about 5 minutes. Ms. Saldana.
We are waiting for a bill to be received from the Senate at this point, Madam Speaker. We don't have another bill that we can take action on until we receive it over from the
Okay.
Senate. I think that's it.
Second reading, the clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1398, 1143, 969, 56, 1214, 1391, 1414, 1440, 991, 1435 with amendments, 1163 with amendments, 1392 with amendments, 1285 with amendments, and Senate Bill 1340 with amendments.
All bills will be deemed read and amendments deemed adopted. Okay, we are going to concurrence file. File item 19, AB 1268. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1268 by Assemblymember Gaines, an act relating to financial institutions.
Mr. Gaines.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. AB 1268 continues the current modernization effort by the Department of Financial Institutions to update the California banking law, which has not been substantially changed since 1951. The amendments taken in the Senate were technical and clarifying in nature. I respectfully request an aye vote. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 52, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 24, AB 1335. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1335 by Assemblymember Liu, an act relating to elections.
Mr. Liu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This bill requires write-in candidates for the office of Superior Court Judge to include on their statements of write-in candidacy a statement that they satisfy the eligibility requirements for a judge. The Senate amendments change the number of signatures needed on a petition indicating that a write-in campaign will be conducted for the office of Superior Court Judge from 100 signatures to a number of signatures equal to 1/10 of 1% of the registered voters qualified to vote with respect to the office. This bill received unanimous bipartisan support in the Assembly Elections Committee, and I would respectfully request an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Mr. Liu moves the call. File item 23, ACR 124.
Assembly concur Resolution 124 by Assemblymember Bass relative to the Culver City Police Lieutenant Curtis Massey Memorial Overpass.
Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. ACR 124 designates a portion of State Highway Route 10 in Los Angeles County as the Culver City Police Lieutenant Curtis Massey Memorial Overpass. This measure was introduced to honor the life work and sacrifice of Lieutenant Curtis Massey. Lieutenant Massey, who served for 17 years with the Culver City Police Department, died in the line of duty when his unmarked police car was struck head-on by a vehicle driven the wrong way on the Interstate 10 freeway in Los Angeles. Amendments in the Senate changed the facility designated for memorialization from a freeway segment to a freeway overpass. The bill is sponsored by the City Council of Culver City and has received bipartisan support. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, we can take a voice vote. We can take a roll call on this item. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 52, no 0. Measure is adopted. Senate concurrence are concurred in. Senate amendments are concurred in. Ms. Saldana,
Please return to motions and resolutions.
without objection.
Madam Speaker, we do have 2 more bills to remove from inactive file. One of those is file item A6, Senate Bill 76 from the Senate Budget Committee. We would like to remove that from the inactive file.
Clerk will note.
We'd also like to remove file item A8, Senate Bill 515 by Senator Hancock, from the inactive file.
Clerk will note.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
File item 84, SB 21 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 21 with amendments by Assemblymember Huffman.
Mr. Huffman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. These amendments narrow the scope of the bill to address some concerns raised by stakeholders. Respectfully request your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we'll take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Out to print and back on file. File item 92, SB 1394 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1394 with amendments by Assemblymember Lowenthal.
Ms. Lowenthal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. These amendments remove the current contents of the bill and replace them with language to repeal the sunset on vehicle code sections that strengthen the manner in which DMV screens licensees whose ability to operate a vehicle may have become impaired. I request we adopt the amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we will take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Out to print and back on file. Members, we're going to have to go out of order because some of the floor jockeys are not here on the floor, so I apologize for the confusion. We're going to have to go out of order based on who's here right now. File item 122, SB 1404. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1404 by Senator Pavley, an act relating to elections.
Mr. Cotto. Mr. Cotto? Passed temporarily. We're going to file item 69, SB 1437. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1437 by Senator Kehoe, an act relating to electricity.
Mr. Bradford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. SB 1437 requires the California Independent System Operator, better known as the CAISO, to appear and report their operations annually before the Senate and Assembly Energy Committees. This bill is consistent with current state law, which requires the California Public Utilities to appear before both committees at least once per year. This bill has received bipartisan support, and I respectfully ask for your aye votes.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 52, no 0. Measure passes. File item 134, SB 435. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 435 by Senator Pavley, an act relating to vehicles.
Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. SB 435 is aimed at reining in the excessive noise caused by illegal tampering with motorcycle emission equipment and the subsequent air pollution which this tampering causes. This bill will provide an easy tool for law enforcement to enforce current law equitably and will bring California into line with federal regulations. The U.S. EPA requires all original emissions equipment and aftermarket replacement equipment since 1983 to meet or exceed EPA noise level restrictions and to be permanently labeled accordingly. This bill will simply require that all motorcycles in California, starting with model year 2013, must maintain this federally required label or risk a modest fix-it ticket. The noise caused by illegally modified motorcycle exhaust systems is a major quality of life issue across the state. Basic common sense and decency dictates that when a motorcycle drives by and sets off every car alarm on the street, that is too loud. Additionally, many of the modifications which are aimed at making a bike louder, for example, removing the catalytic converter, also make the bike exponentially more polluting. This has direct, measurable, and negative impacts on the public and environmental health. The author has worked with the opposition and taken extensive amendments to ensure that this bill will only affect the minority of riders who choose to illegally tamper with their exhaust systems going forward from model year 2013 onwards. A violation will be a fix-it ticket, only citable as a secondary infraction. This is an extremely modest and reasonable first step to providing a basic level of accountability and enforcement for illegal tampering. Additionally, the noise levels prescribed by the federal government are not onerous, and riders can get plenty of roar from a compliant system without rattling the window panes of an entire neighborhood. This is only fair and reasonable. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Anderson.
Question of the author.
Without objection.
We have a lot of electric bikes that are coming into the market. Last year, I believe it was, this legislator, we were talking about electric cars being too quiet. Is there anything in this bill to provide for noise for electric motorcycles that people can't hear?
There's nothing in this bill that will require noise for motorcycles that people can't hear. This is just related to those motorcycles that people can hear and that are too loud and exceed the 82 decibels that's required.
Mr. Gaines.
Yeah, I rise in opposition to this bill. I think it's another form of nanny government, and that we ought to allow people to ride their motorcycles as they wish. I actually like the sound of a Harley Davidson when it's going down the road, and I don't think we ought to be impinging on that. I urge a no vote. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions or debate, Mr. Hill, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just respectfully ask for your aye vote. Thank you.
Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 Mr. Hill moves the call. File item 173, SB 1142. On the amendments, clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1142 with amendments by Assemblymember Yamada.
Ms. Yamada.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This bill returns to us for some amendments, adding co-authors Senator Pavley and Assemblymember Evans. I respectfully ask for the amendments to be adopted, bill out to print and back on file.
Seeing and hearing none, and without objection, we'll take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted, out to print and back on file. File item 122, SB 1404. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1404 by Senator Pavley, an act relating to elections.
Mr. Cotto.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Members, this bill is sponsored by the Secretary of State and is designed to safeguard the integrity of California's election process and ensure that every vote really counts in California. This bill is very similar to a measure SB 541 carried by the same author last year that passed both houses of the legislature but was vetoed by the governor. In last year's veto message, the governor stated it was inappropriate for voting systems vendors to notify the state when they have equipment defects, but thought the bill imposed substantial civil penalties on voting systems vendors. This bill, members, addresses the administration's concerns by clarifying that the penalties in the measure will apply only to defects in a voting system and not each and every voting machine. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Mr. Cotto moves the call. File item 202, SB 1402. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1402 by Senator Dutton, an act relating to air pollution and declaring an urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Mr. Fuentes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill seeks to improve communication between the California Air Resources Board and the parties it regulates. This bill would require ARB, when assessing penalties, to provide a clear explanation of how ARB determined the penalty level. It would further require that ARB develop a written penalty policy to ensure consistent treatment of all violations and an annual report of these penalties to the legislature. We believe these changes will help regulated parties to better understand the ARB's penalty policies. This bill has received unanimous support in the Senate and has received unanimous support so far in the Assembly. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 58, no 0 on the urgency. Ayes 58, no 0 on the measure. Measure passes. File item 215, SB 730. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 730 by Senator Wiggins, an act relating to energy efficiency.
Mr. Huffman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. SB 730 will help maximize local efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and achieve energy efficiency. It requires an investor-owned utility such as PG&E to plan and coordinate their energy efficiency efforts with local county governments, and specifically in Sonoma County, this includes a new regional climate protection authority that was created by legislation last year. The bill also requires that the PUC, in evaluating and approving energy efficiency programs, ensure that these local and regional interests are included. Last year, as I said, we did create the Sonoma County Regional Greenhouse Gas Authority, and this bill is essential to making sure that that hopeful new framework, as well as other local efforts around the state, are successful. I respectfully request your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 49, noes 3. Measure passes. File item 219, SB 879. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 879 by Senator Cox, an act relating to public contracts and making an appropriation therefore.
Mr. Nilo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, SB 879 extends counties' authority to use design-build contracting method. Their current authority expires at the end of this year. It makes technical changes to conform the county's authority to the authority that cities already have to use design-build. This bill gives counties a tool if they feel that time and dollars could be saved on construction projects using design-build. There's no longer any opposition. There was, that has been withdrawn. Counties have been using design-build. They wish to have this option continued to be available to them. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 49, noes 4. Measure passes. File item 217, SB 798 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 798 with amendments by Assemblymember Torlakson.
Mr. Torlakson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this has to do with the 21st Century Community Learning Centers after-school programs. The amendments take care of drafting errors, urge adoption of the amendments out to print, etc. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we will take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted, out to print, and back on file. File item 39, ACR 183 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Assembly concur Resolution 183 with amendments by Assemblymember Fletcher.
Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. ACR 183 will declare November 2010 to be California Adoption Month. These amendments make two small technical changes at the request of one of the resolution supporters. Would request your support.
We can take a voice vote on this item. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Senate amendments are concurred in. Amendments are adopted. File item 226, SB 959. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 959 by Senator Duchesne, an act relating to development and declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Ms. Caballero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I'm honored to present SB 959 on behalf of Senator Duchesne. This bill recreates the Office of Permit Assistance within the Office of Planning and Research, which is otherwise known as OPR, to provide a streamlined, efficient permitting process to facilitate commercial and industrial project approval in the state of California. This legislation will help jumpstart California's stalled economy by assisting businesses in navigating what can many times be a time-consuming and complicated permit process. This bill does not affect any current city, county, state, or environmental permitting, except to make the process more efficient. SB 959 has had no votes in the Assembly or Senate policy committees and is supported by the California Association of Realtors, the California Apartment Association, and Consulting Engineers and Land Surveyors of California. Minor technical amendments were taken in Assembly appropriations to clarify that this bill only applies to commercial and industrial projects. Members, it is time to put California back to work, and SB 959 will help us to do just that. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Ms. Caballero, would you agree to put this bill on hold? Pass temporarily?
At your pleasure, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. File item 90, SB 885 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 885 with amendments by Assemblymember Ng.
Mr. Eng.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This is on the amendments only. The amendments will strike the requirement that a retailer will disclose that gift cards are redeemable for cash when they have a cash value below $10. The bill will then only bar the use of a dormancy fee on gift cards. Dormancy fees can currently be charged when a card has not been used for 24 months. Members, these amendments will remove most, if not all, of the opposition on the bill. Respectfully request an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we will take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Out to print and back on file. File item 116, SB 1266 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1266 with amendments by Assemblymember Lowenthal.
Ms. Lowenthal.
Madam Speaker and members, the amendments to SB 1266 address the needs of local law enforcement and the Department of Corrections, allowing them to implement this bill more effectively. I ask for your aye vote in adopting these amendments.
Mr. Hagman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We oppose these amendments and respectfully ask for a roll call vote.
Mr. Hagman opposes these amendments, and he requests a no vote. Ms. Lowenthal requests an aye vote. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. These are on the amendments. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. This will be majority of those present and voting. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 33, noes 22. Amendments are adopted. Out to print and back on file. File item 191, SB 632 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 632 with amendments by Assemblymember Lowenthal.
Ms. Lowenthal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. These amendments delete the existing contents of the bill and insert the ability for the South Coast Air Quality Management District and the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District to levy a fee up to $3 upon a motor vehicle registered within the respective district. These districts are out of attainment under the Federal Clean Air Act, and this fee will allow the districts to comply with federal law and also avoid severe fines and penalties upon the stationary sources in the districts. I respectfully ask the amendments be adopted.
Mr. Hagman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My colleague, Mr. Knight, would like me to object to these amendments and ask for a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hagman objects to these amendments. He's asking for a no vote on these amendments. Ms. Lowenthal is asking for an aye vote on these amendments. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. These are on the amendments. Majority, those present and voting. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 39, noes 20. Amendments are adopted. Out to print and back on file. File item 239, SB 250 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 250 with amendments by Assemblymember Blumenfield.
Mr. Blumenfield. Mr. Blumenfield.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. This is a rise to offer amendments to SB 250 dealing with spaying and neutering. It's just These two amendments are fairly simple. They address some of the concerns that were raised last year on this bill, dealing with the appeals process and low-income folks, to make it easier for low-income folks. I ask for your support for these amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we will take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted, out to print and back on file. Okay, members, if you have items you'd like to take up today, can you please come up and talk to the sergeant? File item 77, SB 1090. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1250 by Senator Duchesne, an act relating to taxation.
Mr. Cotto. I'm sorry, 77, SB 1250. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1250 by Senator Duchesne, an act relating to taxation.
Sorry, Ms. Salas.
Madam Speaker and members, SB 1250 increases the supply of affordable housing for military veterans and their families. The bill has support on both sides, and I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 50, noes 1. Measure passes. File item 123, SB 1408. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1408 by the Senate Committee on Banking and Finance and Insurance, an act relating to insurance and declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Mr. Solorio.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This bill is needed to update California's Life and Health Insurance Guarantee Association law. This association pays policyholders in a life or health insurance if when they become insolvent. The bill has received unanimous bipartisan support. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 55, no 0 on the urgency. Ayes 55, no 0 on the measure. Measure passes. File item 128. SB 1481. Mr. Block, For what purpose do you rise?
128.
File item 128, SB 1481. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1481 by the Senate Committee on Governmental Organization and Act relating to state militia.
Mr. Block.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. SB 1481 is a Senate GO committee bill supported by all members of the committee and sponsored by the National Guard. SB 1481 makes a simple clarifying revision to the Military and Veterans Code to ensure the Armory Fund remains a viable funding source for the acquisition and construction of future armories. It's vital for California's National Guard infrastructure that any and all proceeds from sale or lease of obsolete armories continue to be deposited in the Armory Fund. Without working armories, the National Guard's ability to support state emergencies will be significantly impaired. There is no opposition. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 57, no 0. Measure passes. File item 143, SB 1069. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1069 by Senator Pavley, an act relating to physician assistants.
Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. SB 1069 is a measure to ensure that doctors and physicians' assistants can cover as many patients as possible in a timely manner. It will increase access to care in California, especially in rural and underserved areas of the state. Specifically, the bill allows physician assistants to order durable medical equipment, approve treatment plans for home health services, and conduct specified physical examinations. It has received unanimous support in both houses, and I would respectfully request your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 58, no 0. Measure passes. File item 225, SB 738. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 938 by Senator Huff, an act relating to the Department of Motor Vehicles.
Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senate Bill 938 makes a couple of clarifying amendments to two very important safety provisions. Currently, law enforcement personnel, public officials, and a long list of others eligible to protect their home address from disclosure from the Confidential Records Program Act. This provision is also extended to immediate family members and eligible participants. However, there is no provision to preclude immediate family members who become convicted criminals from maintaining eligibility for home address confidentiality. SB 938 will preclude persons on active parole or probation from these confidential provisions. Secondly, this measure will remove the CHP requirement to use the California Law Enforcement Telecommunications System, or CLETS, for background checks in favor of more effective fingerprint-based check preferred by the Highway Patrol and the Department of Justice. There's no opposition, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 56, no 0. Measure passes. File Item 132, SB 228 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 228 with amendments by Assemblymember Skinner.
Ms. Skinner.
Good afternoon, members and Madam Speaker. SB 228 by Senator DeSaulnier requires plastic compostable bags that meet the American Society for Testing Materials standard, the ASTM standard, to be readily identifiable as compostable. The amendments are technical and affix that the Ledge Council, affix to a Ledge Council drafting error. I respectfully request that the amendments be adopted, the bill be sent out to print, and placed back on file. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions or debate and without objection, we will take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted, out to print, and back on file. Any other bills members wish to take up today? If you could come up and let the sergeant know. File Item 187, SB 1431. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1431 by Senator Simonian, an act relating to health care coverage.
Mr. Monning.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, SB 1431 would allow counties participating in a county health initiative matching fund program to provide health care coverage to qualified low-income children. It is estimated that under SB 1431, a county could enroll between 300 and 500 additional children annually in a health care program. The cost to the county would be approximately $150,000 to $250,000, all local funds matched with approximately the same amount of federal funds. There are no state funding involved in this. The bill has no opposition. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 55, no 0. Measure passes. File Item 112, SB 1198. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1198 by Senator Huff, an act relating to energy.
Mr. Fuentes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill delays implementation of the Commission's labeling requirement from July 1 until July 1, 2011 to avoid potential conflicts with television energy use labeling regulations currently under development at the Federal Trade Commission. This bill simply delays the California labeling requirement. If the FTC adopts its own by July of next year, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 51, noes 2. Measure passes. Any more bills, members? Call in once, twice. Okay, we're going to go to the second day consent calendar. Does any member wish to remove an item from the second day consent calendar? Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will read.
Senate concur Resolution 115 by Senator DeSaulnier relative to the Bone Marrow Donation Awareness Month.
Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 65, no 0.
Senate Bill 1247 with urge.
Ayes 65, no 0 on the urgency. Ayes 65, no 0 on the measure. Pursuant to Assembly Rule 77.2, I am re-referring the following bills to committee. File Item 92, SB 1394, Kehoe, to the Transportation Committee. Without objection. I also request unanimous consent to waive the one-day waiting period for bills amended on the Assembly floor yesterday. File Item 72, SB 1090 by Cedillo. Floor Manager Koto. File Item 101, SB 294 by Negrete McLeod. Floor Manager Hayashi. And File Item 140, SB 282 by Wright. Floor Manager Galgiani. Ms. Saldana, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. At the request of the author, I move to rescind the action whereby Senate Bill 1407 from Senate Banking and Finance was passed to the Senate on August 12th, and to return the bill to third reading file.
Without objection. Mr. Smythe, for what purpose do you rise?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just to announce that the Local Government Committee will be meeting upon adjournment in room 447 to hear one bill, and ask that everybody be there on time so we can get it done. Again, local government right after adjournment.
We still have a couple more items and a couple items on call. File Item 72, SB 1090. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 1090 by Senator Cedillo, an act relating to gaming.
Mr. Cotto.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. In 2008, the legislature passed and the governor signed into law SB 1369 by Senator Cedillo. The bill allowed qualified nonprofits to operate remote caller bingo games. The SB 1090 this bill contains cleanup language and fine-tunes implementations issues that have arisen as charities and local governments take steps toward authorizing and conducting the games. There has been no opposition to this bill. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 59, no 0. Measure passes. File Item 101, SB 294. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 294 by Senator Negrete McLeod, an act relating to professions and vocations.
Ms. Hayashi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. SB 294 changes the sunset review dates on various boards and programs within the Department of Consumer Affairs. It also declares that the massage therapy laws apply to all cities and counties, including charter cities and charter counties. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 61, noes 2. Measure passes. The session schedule is as follows. Thursday, August 19th, session will begin at 1:30 p.m. This will be the last day in the Assembly to submit amendments to the desk by 5 p.m. or before adjournment if an author wishes to amend by August 20th. Friday, August 20th, session will start at 9 a.m. This is the last day to amend measures on the Assembly floor. Last day to put a one-day file notice across the desk for a conference committee meeting to be held on Tuesday, August 24th. So again, Thursday, tomorrow's session will be at 1:30, and Friday session will be at 9 a.m. We have 3 items on call. Okay, members, we're going to lift the call in file item order. File item 24, AB 1335. Clerk will post. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 48, noes 18. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 134, SB 435. Clerk will post. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 41, noes 28. Measure passes. File item 122, SB 1404. Clerk will post. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 47, noes 20. Measure passes. We have a couple motions left before we can adjourn. Ms. Saldana.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I request unanimous consent to recall the following bill from engrossing and enrolling and return the item to the Senate for further action. Assembly Bill 1956 by Mr. Monning.
Without objection.
And I request unanimous consent to waive the file notice requirements and allow Public Employees, Retirement and Social Security Committee to meet on Thursday for the purpose of taking up File item AB 1592 by Ms. Buchanan.
Without objection, and pursuant to Assembly Rule 77.2, I am re-referring the following bills to the Public Employees Retirement and Social Security Committee, AB 1592 by Ms. Buchanan.
Then I should have done that motion.
Okay, I am ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Hagman, Ms. Saldana moves, Mr. Hagman seconds, that this House stands adjourned until Thursday, August 18th at 1:30 p.m. Quorum call is lifted.